Taking on a career at a time when it is not considered a safe one, but when opportunity meets willingness and talent, then anything can happen. For over 22 years, working in the domain of arts and crafts, this has not just given the experience, but also the exposure to the huge range of possibilities. And this is where the creativity meets entrepreneurship. Meet Shibani Jain, the founder of Baaya Design, a unique place where Indian handicrafts, the authentic crafts from various corners of India, meets the modern aesthetic demands which defines the luxury lifestyle and is accessible for everyone. She is a design entrepreneur, an expert on folk art from India, and an avid reader who loves to travel and collect art forms. She has already worked with more than 70 variety of art forms in all depth and dimensions. Baaya Design has won multiple awards for its project work and has been awarded as India's best spatial design studio in 2020 by Pool magazine. Shibani is a recipient of IICD Global Award as Leading Woman in Arts and Crafts, the Business World winner for the Most Exceptional Women in Arts and Culture, and the Business Woman of the Year 2021 from CEO Magazine. She is also the co-founder and trustee of the NGO, which is the Catalyst for Social Action, and the founder director of Hand for Handmade Movement. It's a collaborative association to support stakeholders in the handmade or craft space in India. With such aesthetic sense, the beauty, the arts, the culture, and of course the experience that she brings in working with the Tatas and also having big clients such as the Statue of Equality Pavilion, Hyderabad, JSW Dolby Hospital, Tata Bombay House, TCS, Hyatt Regency, Oberoi Group, and Axis Bank, just to name a few. Let's listen from the person herself. Welcome, Shibani. I am so glad to have you here and thank you for coming to Intensify Life podcast. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for inviting me, Somdutta. It's a pleasure to be here on your show.
Thank you so much.
To talk about how we intensify life.
Thank you. Of course, we are going to, and I must say you're looking beautiful, and the design behind you actually reflects the artistic person you are.
Thanks so much. So this is in my home studio, and at the back what you see is some work that my organization does, Baaya, with artisans. It is silver leafing work with hand painting on top.
Wow, this is just beautiful. It's looking like a professional space, absolutely. So yes. All right. So your works are really inspiring. The kind of awards you have got, the kind of things you have been doing for like over 22 years, the kind of clientele you have, which I actually mentioned in the introduction. So to begin with, let me just start from the scratch. How did this journey began, and what was your interest towards the art segment of Indian artisans?
So it's a long story, which I'll try and make it as short as possible. But essentially, my journey, I was always interested in crafts, and I used to go with these, I used to travel with my mother. We are Bengalis, we travel everywhere. And in some of these huts, I could see how the craftsmen were chipping away, polishing things, cutting soapstone. In all of these, wherever I visited, there would be craftsmen, and there would be little marketplaces which always intrigued me. And then when I joined my university or learning educational institute, NID, I had a very inspiring professor there called Professor Ranjan, MP Ranjan. And he actually was very much working with the handicraft sector and working with bamboo and the Northeast crafts, and used to keep telling us about exciting stories that he engaged with on his journey. And that really deepened my interest in crafts. I started my career in the digital multimedia interactive space, which was really a big space in the around the year between 1990 going all the way up to 2000. It was a big boom for the digital space at that time. And if you remember, all the dot-coms that started to come in. So I worked with the Tatas for about 6-7 years, and then I actually incubated a dot-com around crafts with them called craftsbridge.com. And we actually ran it successfully for about 7 years before we realized that we needed much bigger funding to carry on. And being crafts and one of the first dot coms in crafts, I think it was hard to generate that kind of monies for the dot com. But eventually, I kind of handed it back to my investors, and I came here to Bombay, and I was living in Pune then. And then I started Baaya, which was to create possibilities for interiors using artisanal skills. There was always products which I saw in the stores, like many good stores had products then, but they didn't really focus on the artisanal skills which needed to be brought in touch with markets. So we set this agenda up that we'll work with these skills and map them to today's homes, interiors, spaces, and put them in places of pride. So Baya's now been around for about 13 years. So yeah.
Wow. So you started around the time of that dot-com boom, and typically in a field which was not exactly a career concept that time. You were in the arts, and that too, you created a complete new company out there, a project.
Yeah.
So how was that experience? I mean, what are the biggest challenges you faced that time?
So when we started Baya early on, there was people didn't really know anything about more than the basic crafts. Like they knew about a varli, they knew about a miniature, but the fact that India has some incredible 1,000+ skills, and even just in arts there are probably 75 art forms across the 32 states that we have, uh, was kind of a mystery to people, and they had no idea what to expect. I think that a lot of customer information building, educational exercises, and workshops were done by us to show people that, look at different forms of art that are available, not just what is basically easily available already. And that was one of the challenges, that people didn't know what to expect from these skills. The second thing, the challenge was that crafts is always thought of for whatever reason, that it should not be a industry that is expensive, and people did not want to pay for design skills or for high artisan skills or high quality work. It was a lot of resistance to paying for crafts related work. But across the years, we, I think, see a shift, and people have realized that handmade skills are in fact, to be paid more than a machine made or a mass produced product. But in the initial years, we certainly faced a lot of this, but why is it so expensive? Why is craft? This is a craft, that kind of thing. So uh, we would always try to work with the best skills, in the sense that, our idea was that here are some of the most incredible, talented artisans, and we want to bring their work out first and foremost. So we were trying to bring in the intensity, the finesse of the work that was originally there in India. And across the years, I think it's people have started to understand that it's worthwhile to pay more for a handmade product, because it brings a different connect into our homes and spaces.
That's beautiful. And you brought in a concept where, you know, because of the lack of awareness, would you say that because when people see a handmade, let's say a design of terracotta, and they say, okay, why is this so expensive? And why are all the designs different? It should be same, right? It is handmade, so the designs are different.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they want that machine made, which is like all the designs are same.
Yeah.
So would you say this is like a lack of awareness about our own country, about our own crafts and the traditional ways of art forms?
Most certainly, across the years, we have lost connect with our past, with our own culture, because what has happened is we who are the buyers are living in cities and we are urbanized, and the artisans are living in their rural villages and they have no exposure to markets, and the markets have no exposure to the artists. So even in schools where culture and crafts should be taught, at least in their art courses or in design schools, it is not really exposed in a significant way, unlike countries like, say, Japan or even Bhutan, maybe. So it's a very important connect to be built right from childhood, which has gone missing in our society today, and this disconnect has led to lack of knowledge, lack of awareness, lack of understanding that that these are incredible processes which are not available anywhere else in the world, but only available here, and that we've got to preserve it, we've got to utilize it, we've got to use it in interesting ways. That is something that is definitely still needed, I would say.
So you mean to say people who are looking to make a career in the arts domain and people who actually love art form, typically the Indian art forms, etc. So they can actually make a career out of it in today's time, at least.
I
Times have
think so.
changed. Do you think
I
so?
think I think designers definitely have started to look at crafts much more than they used to. I think that artists, um, some artists are, but the artists who are in the crafts arena, or basically known as cultural artists, are also beginning to sell quite well on traditional galleries and art platforms. So that it's encouraging to see that uh, there's definitely a revived interest in culture, a revived um, platforms to generate income that are now available for artisans and handicrafts people. And we're in a much better space than we were before. So, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense because you are an expert in this domain, I would also like to ask you this aspect that what I have seen just from my observation is that there is a huge demand for Indian arts and crafts, Indian artwork forms in any form, typically in the Western world. But when you see the demand of the Indian crafts form in India, it is not so much as compared to the Western countries or the people from outside.
Yeah.
So what do you think is the main reason for this disparity? And how can we close it actually?
So, you know, actually, even in the Western world, there is an appreciation of handmade work rather than that of an Indian artisan's work. So, whether it's an African artisan, a Balinese work, there is definitely far more appreciation that it's made by hand and therefore has more effort and has more organicness and much more uniqueness to every product. Um, so for Indian artisans, I think to make that kind of impact globally, and there's still a long way to go. But having said that, I think in India, the awareness that handmade itself should be, prized and should be valued and kept alive. Uh, will help in changing the way we perceive or we pay for these artisans and make this whole industry much more viable. And the reason for that could be that people do not see the kind of efforts or the processes or the just the magic that happens when they create with hand. So if you're standing in front of, let's say, a copper enamel artist, and you see him actually dunking that enamel with glass surface into on the fire, after the fire, and dunking it into the water, and hey presto, you get these beautiful lustrous colors. I mean, there's soulfulness in every aspect of just creating the product, and if that comes out, people will understand that this is a far more interesting connect to have in their spaces or in their lives. Like if you wear a handloom cotton vis-a-vis wearing a synthetic sari, it actually feels better. It's more organic. It has the touch and feel of a human hand on it, and it's natural. So all of these actually matters in our life, but we have lost that connect. So we still have to come back and uh, be able to value this magic of the handmade world.
Beautiful. And yes, talking about behind the scenes, and thankfully, there are a lot of channels and spaces who actually capture the behind the scenes and put it out so that people see the kind of hard work and the number of days and the efforts that goes behind into creating these masterpieces,
Yeah,
which has been passed down from generations to generations. So,
right.
yes, thank you for sharing that. All right. So, moving on to the next segment, because you have traveled all across India, you have met so many artisans and, seen so many artworks, etc. Uh, what has been some of the most funny experiences that, you still remember?
Okay. There are several really beautiful experiences. Um, I don't know whether to call it funny or not, but it's definitely a bit funny and a bit spiritual. So, I don't. So I don't call this necessarily a funny episode. It's a little funny and but mostly spiritual story that I'm going to tell you. So I was in search for a Thangka artist for a project, and it had to be done on the walls of an interior.
And
And
what is, I'll just pause you here. What is Thanka
yeah,
artist? And for
so
people who don't
so
understand,
Thangka art is has actually originated from Northeast India. It's a Buddhist art. You have mandalas which are painted by the Buddhist monks, and these are intricate, right? Very intricate mandalas that are painted, which have a certain story and a pattern for meditation. So you're supposed to meditate on it and sit in front of it and view all the layers one by one, the earth, fire, air, water, till you reach the inner layer. And it's a meditation tool, and largely created by monks or monk families and artisanal families in the Northeast. And, so I was in Sikkim and trying to look for a Thangka artist. And then everywhere I would go for a Thangka mandala and try to find it, I would find very substandard pieces. I would find, things in government emporiums which were cheaply made, which were printed. I would find in the curio shops very cheap Thanga mandalas, and that's not what I wanted. I wanted the really high quality stuff. And I went to Sikkim because, in Himachal, you get a different type of Thanga, but I was looking for the painted Thanga, which you also get in Nepal. But I wanted it from India. So I was on the outskirts. I was living in Sikkim, and I asked my hotel concierge to please help me find a Thangka artist. So he very kindly passed the word around to all the other hotel concierges. And they told me, okay, at the edge of the city, there's a little village, and there's this guy called Lakpa, and you have to find him. He's in a village on the outskirts near the zoo. And they gave me the name of the village. So I went to that place, and I don't know if you know, but in homes in the northeast, there are different levels. There's a little village at one level, and then as you climb higher, there's another village, and then as you climb higher, there's a third village. So I went to that place and I said, I'm looking for so and so in the first village, and they said, no, there's no one of that name, but he may be in the second village. So I went to the second village and I asked them. So they said, no, but we think that this person probably lives in the third village. And these are steep staircases that are going up, right? It's quite a climb. So I'm chugging up, chugging up to the third village. And then in the third village, I asked around. They said, no, he doesn't live here. He lives in another village, which is little higher up. You go there and you'll definitely find him. Having come all the way, I didn't want to turn back. I said, all right, let me see. So I went up to the fourth village, and in the fourth village, I asked, and there they said, yes, he's there. That's his home. So I said, oh, great. And I went to look for his home. And when I went there on the ground floor, it was like any other village home, children walking around without their shirts, and, vessels lying all over the floor. And so I asked this lady of the house, I said, Lakpa, I'm looking for Lakpa. Is this his home? So he said, yes, this is his home. So I said, but where is he? I mean, there seemed to be no place for an artist there. So she said, oh, just go up there. So I said, not up again. So she said, no, 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 you don't have to go to another village. You just have to go up here into the machan. So there was a little rickety ladder, and there was a mezzanine that they had. And she said, you go up there. He's painting. So I said, okay, great. So I climbed up that ladder and I went up. And it was the most beautiful room I have ever seen, and the most beautiful sight I have ever seen, because all his windows were open and they were looking out onto this beautiful Himalayan snow peaks. And he was right in the center of the room, creating the most incredible mandala painting. And around him were all these little stone colors, lapis and cerulean blue and pearl whites and pinks. And it was such a moving thing for me. I felt, oh my God, I've discovered something. I felt like I was Christopher Columbus or something like that. And I was so thrilled. I had tears in my eyes just being in that room. And so this is one, one of the stories of discovery that I have for you. But it was incredible. I mean, I think that here was this absolutely supremely talented artist sitting in one corner of India doing his spiritual art, and just no one knew about him. I mean, maybe some did, but very few. So, so these are the kind of experiences that really move you in this whole handmade industry. I mean, I think so many stories I could share, but
This is so beautiful. I mean, you explaining, and
yeah,
if I imagine in that particular
yeah,
scenery, it is just, you get goosebumps. It's so
yeah,
beautiful and mesmerizing. And you don't get to see these things on social media. You
yeah.
actually have to go out there and then experience it for yourself.
Yes,
But that
yes,
is so
absolutely. You
important.
have that experience you have to get. Yeah.
Yes, that is so beautiful. Yes, I would definitely love to hear another one if you would love to share.
Okay, so here's another story. I wanted to find expressive wooden sculpture. Um, and in India, most of the wooden sculpture is very ornamental. You have, highly decorative and carved things which you get in Tamil Nadu or in the South, which is beautiful. But I was looking for more free flowing, expressive sculptural forms. So, in this book from MP Ranjan called Handmade in India, as I was thumbing through the book, I found a very small mention of something called Bhuta artists. And so I said, I have to go find out more about them. I read up a little. I didn't read up very much, but I and my equally crazy friend Hema decided to go on to this place in Kurg to find these Bhuta artists. And similarly, like we went from village to village, village to village. Some of them said, "No, we don't have a karigar here, but we have the dolls. You can buy it." And then some others said that no, the karigars are in next village, next village. So we went to three or four such villages and finally found an artisan family that was doing these Bhuta carvings, and they were really, really nice Bhuta carvings. But when we asked him that, after this whole sojourn, we said, will you carve for us? So he said, no, I will not carve for you. So I said, why will you not carve for me? I will give you work and, it's income. So he said, no, there's a very strong um, sentiment that operates in Udupi and in Kurg region, which is that these bhutas are gods that have mystical powers and they act on your daily life. They can give you boons or they can give you curses. And if you start, using these bhuta sculptures the way they are not supposed to be used, or they are to be revered and put in places of respect, the curse of the gods will fall upon you. And everywhere this was the story. All these Bhuta artisans were firmly of the belief that they can only create it for religious purposes and not for any other purpose. So we found an incredible craft, but we couldn't manage to make them work for us in slightly different ways. So this is another very interesting story where we understood how deeply embedded belief and culture and artisanal work go together. It's incredible the amount of belief there is in people about this whole Bhuta gods. And there are some absolutely stunning temples that are dedicated to Bhuta gods over there. And they have absolutely amazing 30, 40 feet tall sculptural wood carved gods. But they, and we have to respect that they would like to stay with their their own utilization of their skills towards a religious purpose. So at least I could not convince them.
Wow, this is amazing. And this also shows that how the traditional art forms or the traditions are alive because of they have preserved it so well. I mean,
Yes.
they did not mix it up. I mean, they could have easily changed it, did
Yeah.
something, but they did not choose to do it. So
Yeah.
it's incredible to know. I mean, different
Yeah.
parts of India, so many stories, and you are a living example of that. So thank you so much for sharing.
Not at all. And these sculptural forms were very beautiful. I would encourage people to see it if they can. Yeah.
Right. So now coming to the aspect, you are an artist, an art lover, okay, a creative person, plus you are also an entrepreneur. So combining these two things, what has been your, biggest experiences or learnings that you would like to share to the people who are trying to create a business specifically in the art field?
Yeah, it's a good question because creative people are not really thought of to be the best at business. And it is partially true because we don't always think with our left brains. We tend to think with our right brains. And I think that the advice that I would give to designers or to people who are starting out in this field is, get mentors. Very important. You may not listen to your mentors all the time. You have to make up your own mind, but you need to have one or two or three people that you can go back to and ask the tough questions. And mentorship, especially in a space like crafts, is very important because otherwise you create expensive mistakes. You'll do things in a rush and then you'll realize you don't have a market to sell to, or you have the pricing all wrong, or you've created a product that the market is not ready to buy, so on and so forth. So good to have some mentors who will guide you in this whole process of growing your business. And number two, and this is a hard learned thing, team is everything. You have to have a good team. You have to build a good team. You have to make your team believe in your vision and, make them understand where you're coming from. So these two things.
That's amazing because coming from the coaching aspect, I see a lot of people who are in the art field, or I would say creative field. So they get so much into the creation mode that they forget about the business part of it. I won't say forget, it's about they are not aware about what to do from the business segment, right? Rightly, you mentioned that you
Yeah.
created something, now you have to sell it, but for selling it, you need to market it.
Yes.
If you do not focus on the marketing part in a good manner, and especially in today's time when the market is changing so much, it becomes very difficult to put across that what this creativity would mean for somebody, right, who is buying that. So
Absolutely.
yeah, you've put it very nicely. And of course, the second part is team. Having the right kind of people around you is very essential. And
Very,
getting
very good.
mentorship is,
Yeah.
having everything. It's like a support system. You can go back, you can bounce the ideas, you can talk to the person, you need to hear the truths that you do not want to hear, which will save you a lot of money.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
yes, that is
Definitely.
definitely there. Thank you so much for sharing. All right, Shibani, you, along with your work, along with Baaya Design, you also run an NGO and you also are the founder director of a movement. So, could you share something about that?
Sure. So I have three of us founded Hand for Handmade as a response to the COVID times. And I had started a WhatsApp group just to share with designers and craft entrepreneurs and friends as to what was the situation, what can be done, if there was anything we could do for each other. And I'd added some 30, 40 friends and I just made them into admins. And before I knew it, it had filled up to the 256 number. And the 256 number actually even became less, and we had to start a Telegram group. And that COVID period, we actually utilized intensely, all of us, in learning. So there was lots of webinars, there was lots of uh, and there was a lot of interconnectedness. So the many e-commerce sites that had joined Hand for Handmade started to tie up with some of the vendors who were part of Hand for Handmade and started to put their products up for sale. So online was doing fine for a while. So so many of these artisans got some succor or income from being with these e-commerce sites. And there was also a lot of cross support in terms of design help, mask formats, and formats to design a better mask. All of that came in through this Hand for Handmade groups. And there was a lot of feeling of community and support being there at that time. And this actually led us to create a Section 8 company. So Hand for Handmade actually was registered as a Section 8 company, and today it's about a little more than 2 years old, and we have a dedicated professional team that's looking into the day-to-day activities. We have memberships, and we are actively working with artisan clusters, trying to support them to grow and scale. We are especially working with 3 clusters right now to help them build expertise in market side, business side, and design side. And we also have the Handmade Academy program, which has built online skills based programs. So, how to take a good photograph, how to create a good catalog, how to what to expect in an e-commerce site. All of these are being created by Handmade Academy and being put up on digital platforms. Especially, we have our own YouTube channel, and we also have the Infosys Springboard platform on which this has been launched. So a lot of learning and skill building and looking at the handmade industry from the perspective of new age technology or support is what Hand for Handmade is looking at. And yeah.
This is beautiful. And I also heard that you are creating something for the 75th Constitution, and that's something big. I mean, that's not happened previously. So tell us something about that.
So, the 75th year of the Constitution celebrations are starting from 26th November 2023, when the Constitution was completed. And it was actually registered and adopted on 26th January when Republic Day came in. So these 2 months is a time to celebrate the 75th year of the Indian Constitution. And artisans from across India are creating an absolutely amazing mural which is coordinated by Hand for Handmade, where we are putting up 75 different intricate textile pieces from across India. They could be painted, they could be woven, they could be hand embroidered. And we are going to then create a tapestry of these 75 pieces together and exhibit it in different cities. So it'll go up, maybe it can even go up on a building because it's nearly 6 stories tall. And, the mural, we're hoping that it goes up on one of the main buildings in the cities. And essentially, these 75 pieces will be our sort of contribution to this whole celebration of the 75th year from the cultural industry, the arts industry, the handmade industry. They want to say that, hey, we are here also, and look at our contribution, and this is our contribution to celebrate the 75th year. So this is something that's very exciting that is coming up very soon.
Wow, this is massive. I mean, this, when you said it's like 6 story tall, this
Yeah.
itself would be a huge thing to actually see. I,
Yes.
this is really amazing, and all the best for that. Uh,
Thank you.
we are waiting to see it definitely. And
Yeah.
if it's also moving from city to city, that's going to be really something to watch, because I think this year and going forward, India is seeing so many things coming up in the form of artwork and everything. Like we recently had the opening of Nita Ambani, the Cultural Arts Center, and then the Pragati Maidan, and then now you are saying about the 75th Constitution, that mural is being made. I mean, so many different amazing creatives are being happening all across India. So it's great to know all these contributions that you are also doing. You also run an NGO, right? And what is the NGO about? Who is it for?
So I am a trustee in a not-for-profit called Catalyst for Social Action, where we support children in orphanages and in institutional homes with a more holistic care. So many of these institutional homes give basic care, but for example, vitamins, supplement of vegetables, fruits, mosquito nets, clean bedding, computers, tuitions for maths and English. These are some of the things that CSA provides to these children. We work with about 250 institutions based out of 4 states, and our children are benefiting from these programs that we have created for them.
That is really interesting. I mean, how do you manage so many things going on together in different forms and different aspects? Plus, you are also doing this, taking care of the NGO and contributing to the society as well. So, how do you manage so many things together?
So I don't think about it too much. I just let things happen, and I kind of uh, like to focus 100% on whatever I'm doing at any point in time. So if I am in a meeting for Baaya, I will be 100% focused on that meeting. If I'm doing something for handmade, I'll be 100% focused on that. So for me, it's not about all the time managing all three things. For me, it's that when I'm doing one job, I focus on that. And of course, it is sometimes a little difficult to juggle all the balls, but that's why you need good people. So in CSA, in Hand for Handmade, and in Baaya, I've ensured that I have really good teams who can back me up. So that's my secret.
Yes, that's really interesting to know, because you were talking about spirituality. It also says that your involvement is required, whatever you do. If there is no involvement, if you're not present into doing what you're doing, then no point
Absolutely.
in doing that. So you put it out in a very simple and
Yeah.
crystal clear format, and you got the result. So
Yeah.
that is what matters. So yes, thank you so much for sharing that.
My
So
pleasure. Yeah.
yes, and anything that you would like to share as your message or learning, or you would like to share to our listeners who are typically wanting to become entrepreneurs and typically wanting to become entrepreneurs in their different art forms, which you already mentioned, but let's say they want to do something which is very new to them, like how you started off in a completely new segment. What would be your advice or anything that you would like to share?
I would like to share that don't go with that attitude कि मुझे एक साल 2 साल 3 साल में I have to start generating big profits for myself and making loads of money. You have to be prepared that not all businesses are equal. Not all industries are equal. You may be choosing to do something where you may have to invest a far longer time. And you have to be prepared for that. You cannot equate something like in the tech industry to what you're doing in the crafts industry, because it is going to take much longer. It is going to be more challenging. So you're going to have to understand that you have to be prepared for the long haul, especially if you're trying to do something that is new and unexpected or different. You are going to have to work towards building your market. And that you will need to have the support of either capital or mentors or people who around you who can keep you going. And I also want to say that especially for women, it's very hard sometimes because they have they whatever, even though it's a modern society, there is still that expectation that you have to run the home, you have to take care of the children, you have to be there for the family. And I can understand that it's a primary caretaker's role, a mother's role. And I would just tell them that look, um, uh, give it time, don't give up, give it time, stay in for the long haul, do what you can, start. And then as and when you are freed up or you have more time in your hands, or you have the ability or sudden inflow of money, support, take it. If support comes to your way, take that support. And I'm sure that with that you will reach somewhere. And success to me is actually just the flip side of the coin. The coin goes up and it flips, and it's the success. So there's really no hard line between success and failure. It's a constant movement towards success. So I would give them that advice.
This is fabulous because there's a bang on practical thing that you mentioned right now, because all industries are not same. So if you treat every industry, every business in the same manner, thinking, okay, if this is my target, I'm going to get this,
Yeah.
they are going to go for setbacks, because
Yes.
having that clarity, awareness, learning, and understanding of the market, of the industry, of the target audience,
Yeah.
basically who your customer is, will actually save a lot of your time, energy, and money.
Totally.
Yeah. So,
Totally.
yes, great. Thank you for sharing. And coming to the women entrepreneurs, you mentioned, absolutely agree, because they are juggling and wearing so many hats together, especially in today's time, and still making it big. So, hats off to you, how you made it, and being an inspiration of so many women entrepreneurs out there. And finally, yes, success is not a hard and fast, solid definition which is standard for everyone. So it's up to you what success is and what it means to you. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, celebrate your successes as you.
Yes, celebrate your successes.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Shibani. It has been amazing, pleasure to have you here. You are such a creative person. I've seen your artwork. Some of, our listeners are also watching this, and you are doing fabulous things with your NGO, with the, hand movement, and it has been really great knowing your journey, and also the insights, especially that you shared for the upcoming entrepreneurs, especially in the creative field.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you so much for sharing. And everyone, the links are here below. Go ahead, check her profile, check the stuffs that she's creating, she's making. And if you want to get in touch with her, the links are provided below. And thank you so much once again, Shibani, for coming to Intensify Life podcast. Thank you so much.
My pleasure entirely, Somda. Happy to be here.
Thank you.